Any guesses how much it would have costed for the Kurukshetra war? Did you know? We see Mahabharata as a great epic, poetic work and scholarly piece. We say we learn about what to do and what not to do. We talk about karma, we talk about how addiction can lead to something like war, friendship, revenge stories, love stories, bravery, and most importantly, strategy and strategic thinking. But we never really know the financial aspects that are involved in the Mahabharata. 21,870 elephants, 65,610 horses, 21,870 chariots, and 1,09,350 soldiers. What am I talking about? You must be wondering why I'm talking about horses, elephants and chariots. Well, we have all heard the stories of Ramayana and Mahabharat since our childhood. Mahabharata brings to mind the Kauravas, the Pandavas, Kunti, Karna, Shri Krishna and the exile of Pandavas, the deception of the Kauravas and most importantly, the Kurukshetra war. The world has witnessed two world wars, both bringing immense loss, death and suffering. Many countries faced severe economic setbacks from these wars, spending billions of rupees. If there's another world war, humanity might face complete destruction with advanced technology, atom bombs, rocket launchers and modern weapons capable of mass destruction. Countries today are spending trillions just to maintain an edge in this deadly arms race. So let's pause and think. The Kurukshetra war, fought thousands of years ago, had its own massive impact, I'm sure. How many people were involved? How much would it cost if that war were fought today? Hello and welcome to the Freedom Money English channel. My name is Anupam Anand and today we will be talking about the Mahabharata war, the money involved in it. Mahabharata, one of India's greatest epics, which provides valuable lessons in choosing the right guidance. The Mahabharata is filled with examples of both good and bad advisors, showing how the advice you follow can lead to victory or disaster. For instance, when the Pandavas gained control of Indraprastha, they had solid leadership and strategic guidance. But later they lost everything due to poor advice and addiction of gambling. Shakuni, acting as an advisor to Duryodhana, convinced him to challenge the Pandavas to a game of dice. We all know how much that disastrous decision cost Duryodhana and the Kauravas. This example illustrates how crucial it is to be cautious with the financial advice you receive. Just like in Mahabharata, the wrong advice can lead to downfall, whether it's choosing the right insurance policy or making an investment decision. It's essential to seek advice that is both unbiased and aligned with your best interests. Now we have got a lesson. Let's see how much the bad advice led to disaster and would have costed it in Indian rupees of today. Estimating the financial impact of the Mahabharata war in today's money is speculative, but we can get the approximate costs using modern equivalents. Let's break down the key areas with rough estimates in Indian rupees. Now these numbers are completely speculations and assumptions. First, let's talk about military costs. 21,870 elephants, 65,610 horses, 21,870 chariots, 1,09,350 soldiers. The Kurukshetra war was a massive conflict involving 18 akshanis or groups of armies which included infantry, cavalry, elephants and chariots. The cost of assembling and maintaining such a large army would have been significant, including weapons, armor, food supplies and salaries. 7 Akshohini from Pandavas, 11 Akshohini from Kauravas. Both the parties had Rathis and Maharathis. Duryodhana led the Kaurava forces and was responsible for mobilizing a significant portion of the army, including allies like Bhishma, Karna and Dronacharya. Yudhishthira, the eldest Pandava, led the Pandava army and had to arrange for the military needs of his side. The combined forces of the Kauravas and Pandavas were total 18 Akshohinis, which translates to around 2.4 million soldiers. Assuming a conservative annual salary of rupees 3 lakh per soldier, modern day military salaries, the cost of maintaining these armies for the wars in 18 days duration would be significant. The estimate would be 3 lakh multiplied by 2.4 million soldiers would be rupees 7.2 trillion annually. Now let's calculate the estimate 18 days cost for the soldiers. 7.2 trillion divided by 20 is rupees 360 billion. Rupees 360 billion would have been the cost for 18 days for all the soldiers. Weapons and armor. The war saw the use of a wide range of weapons, from traditional swords and spears to more advanced weapons like bows, chariots and divine weapons, astras and brahmastras. Karna was known for his divine weapons given to him by Parshurama and other gods. The cost of maintaining and deploying such powerful weapons would have been enormous. Arjuna also wielded divine weapons and required specialized equipment for his chariot and archery. Dronacharya, the Guru himself, was also one of the best warriors who designed Chakravyuh, which took the life of Arjun and Subhadra's son Abhimanyu. Ashwathama, the closest friend of Duryodhana and the son of Dronacharya who survived the war of Kurukshetra. Bhishma Pitama was the first chief in commander of the Kurukshetra war. The cost of manufacturing and maintaining these weapons would have been substantial. Equipping millions of soldiers with swords, shields, bows, arrows and armor in today's terms would be like outfitting a modern army. If we assume 1 lakh per soldier for weapons and armor, costs of equipments, upkeep and replacement, the cost escalates quickly. The estimate would be rupees 1 lakh multiplied by 2.4 million soldiers, that would come around rupees 240 billion. War chariots and horses. The Mahabharata mentions thousands of chariots. Assuming each chariot costs rupees 5 lakh and there were around 60,000 chariots, the estimate would be 5 lakh into 60,000 chariots, that would be 3 billion rupees. Horses were also critical. Assuming 1 lakh per horse for purchase, training and upkeep, and around 1,20,000 horses, the estimate would be 1 lakh into 1,20,000 horses, that would be around 12 billion rupees. Another key lesson from the Mahabharata is the importance of thinking long term. Krishna's strategic foresight helped the Pandavas turn the tide of war. In the same way, long-term thinking is crucial in both career planning and investing. For example, in investments, rushing into decisions or being short-sighted can be very costly. The Pandavas were planning throughout their 13 years of Vanvas and strengthened their own skills and core. Duryodhana had also planned every move with future consequences in mind. Investors should focus on long-term gains rather than immediate returns. Now let's talk about logistics and supplies. The logistics of the Kurukshetra war would have been one of the most crucial aspects. Transporting food, water, medical supplies and the equipment for millions of soldiers required vast resources. Maintaining supply lines to ensure that troops were well fed and cared for was essential for sustaining long battle. Feeding 2.4 million soldiers for 18 days with 3 meals per day, assuming each meal cost rupees 100, the total food cost would come around 12.96 billion. Water supply. Setting up water supply lines, transporting water and maintaining sanitation for 18 days would require significant resources. The estimate would be 500 rupees per soldier for 2.4 million soldiers. It will come around rupees 1.2 billion for all the soldiers together. This was just for water supply. Medical care. In modern warfare, medical costs are substantial. Assuming 5,000 rupees per soldier for medical care during the war, equivalent to medical emergencies or supplies, the estimate would be around 12 billion. A South Indian king, Naresh Raja, was in charge of preparing food for the soldiers. Every day evening, he used to take a bunch of chickpeas to Krishna. Krishna would consume it. Naresh Raja would count the leftover chickpeas and would only cook for that number. This means the number of chickpeas that was consumed by Krishna was equal to the number of soldiers that would die in the battle tomorrow in lakhs. The Pandavas had occupied a critical position on the battlefield. they had set up their camps near the river Markandeya. Having a water body nearby was very crucial for any war. There were lakhs of soldiers who needed water for excretion, for their food preparation, and for the war animals to drink. And there were multiple uses of water as well. Infrastructure and camp setup. The infrastructure to support a war of this scale would have been immense. This includes constructing temporary camps, fortifications, communication channels, and supply routes. Infrastructure also involves securing strategic locations and preparing the battlefield for combat. Krishna played a pivotal role in strategy and ensured that the Pandavas had the right positioning on the battlefield. Temporary shelters and fortifications. Setting up camps, fortifications, and defensive structure for 2.4 million soldiers over 18 days, assuming 50,000 per soldier for shelter, fortification, materials, and labor, it will be total around 120 billion rupees. Transportation. Moving troops and supplies to the battlefield requires a logistics network. If we equate this to modern day transportation costs, at 10,000 per soldier, counting the fuel, logistics, and transport, the total cost would be around 24 billion rupees. In the Mahabharata, Krishna's wisdom was instrumental in the Pandavas' eventual victory. For instance, he knew that Bhishma, a formidable warrior, would never attack a woman. Using this knowledge, Krishna placed Shikhandi, who was born as a woman but later became a man, as a shield for Arjuna. This strategic move weakened Bhishma, leading to a critical victory. Similarly, in investing, knowledge and insights about your assets are very vital. Understanding which sectors thrive in different economic conditions, just as Krishna understood the strengths and weaknesses of the Kauravas, can actually make all the difference in achieving your financial goals. Diplomacy and espionage. Diplomacy and alliances played a significant role in assembling the massive armies. Convincing kings and rulers to join either side would have involved political maneuvering, promises of wealth, and gifts. The cost of securing alliances was not just in gold but also in future promises of land and power. Krishna acted as a diplomat, securing alliances for the Pandavas and attempting to mediate peace before the war. Shakuni, Duryodhana's uncle, was a master strategist and diplomat who influenced many rulers to side with the Kauravas. Bribery and diplomacy. Diplomacy and alliances were very crucial in the Mahabharata. If we estimate that each major kingdom involved in the war spent rupees 500 crore, 5 billion, on the diplomatic efforts, including bribes, gifts, and emissaries, and assume there were 50 key players involved, the estimate would be 5 billion into 50 kingdoms, and it would come around rupees 250 billion. Gifts and tributes, the exchange of wealth, luxury goods, and resources as a part of alliances and peace treaties would have been substantial. Assuming each kingdom spent rupees 200 crore, 2 billion on these exchanges, the estimate would be around 2 billion multiplied by 50 kingdoms, rupees 100 billion. Finally, the Mahabharata also teaches us about the dangers of deception. Just as Duryodhana was deceived by the illusion of a palace made of water, today's investors can be misled by scams and false promises. In the epic, deception led to disastrous consequences, just as fake investment schemes can lead to significant losses today. Scammers often use flashy promises and fabricated results to lure people into making poor financial decisions. The Mahabharata reminds us to stay vigilant and question anything that seems too good to be true. Post-war reconstruction. After the war, the injured needed to be cared for, and there would have been significant costs associated with medical treatment, rehabilitation, and rebuilding destroyed areas. Post-war recovery was essential to bring normalcy back to the kingdoms. Rehabilitation and reconstruction. After the war, rebuilding infrastructures, homes, and agriculture would have been a major expenditure. If we estimate that rebuilding efforts cost 500 crore, 5 billion per kingdom, and assume 50 kingdoms were involved, the estimate would be around 250 billion in total. Total estimated cost of the Kurukshetra war, when we add up all the estimated costs, the total rough financial impact of the Kurukshetra war in today's money would be: military costs would be total 615 billion, logistics and supplies will cost altogether around 26.16 billion. Infrastructure and camp setup would cost total around rupees 144 billion. Diplomacy and espionage would cost around total rupees 350 billion. Post-war reconstruction would cost around 250 billion. The grand total would be 615 plus 26.16 plus 144 plus 350 plus 250 billion. This roughly estimates to rupees 1.385 trillion, and that accounts for the major financial aspects of the war in today's terms, representing an enormous investment in terms of manpower, resources and infrastructure. The actual value could vary depending on more specific details, but this provides a conceptual framework for understanding the economic magnitude of the Kurukshetra war. The Kurukshetra war, when evaluated through a modern financial lens, involved immense costs across military, infrastructure, logistics, and other domains. Key characters like Krishna, Shakuni, Arjuna, and others played pivotal roles in managing these resources. In today's terms, the total cost of the war would likely run into tens of thousands of crores of rupees, making it one of the most expensive conflicts in both ancient and modern history. In conclusion, the lessons from the Mahabharata are timeless and can be applied to modern financial decision making. Whether it is choosing the right advisor, thinking long term, or avoiding scams, these ancient stories offer valuable guidance for navigating the complexities of today's financial world.